ladies and gentlemen. How are we all doing today? It is Sunday, the 16th of February, 2025. My hair is a mess, but we don't mind that. We'll let that go. How are we all doing today? Are you keeping well? Now, tonight, I've said in the sort of blurb on the description of tonight's show, what we're going to be talking about is how we can maximize the amount of space that we have for seedlings. Spring is quite literally just around the corner, but more importantly, March is when I really feel that seed sowing really kicks off. And seed sowing itself isn't too much of a problem. It's what we do with seedlings when they start to grow, when they really need that light and what have you. So I want to find out from you, what are your inventive and different ways of tackling this problem? Because I'm sure many of us have lots and lots of different ways of trying to make the most. Our window sills are usually full. Now, first of all, I want to know from you, put your hands up if you regularly run out of space for your seedlings. While I see that, let's have a look and see who is in the audience tonight. We've got Turbo Stream saying, good evening, Veg Podcasters. Good evening to you. Kate is there. Good evening, Veg Army. Good evening to you. Rob is there. He's saying hello to everyone in the chat. Hello to you. Adrian is saying hello, Richard and all. Hello to you. What else have we got? Turbo Stream says it's 17:54 here in Birmingham after a slight mistake I made, but we won't worry about that. Better check on Instagram actually, or I haven't gone live on there. Let's quickly hit that as well while I remember. Jenny is there saying hello everyone. Hope you are well. I'm here just cooking my tea. I'm listening. Lovely to see you. Ballycillion is there saying hello everyone. Hello to you. What have we got? Stuart is there. Evening, Richard and the Veg Army. Hope you all feel better than me. I have the half-term cold. Sorry to hear that, Stuart. Hope you feel better soon. Digwell's there saying, yo. Lovely to see you, buddy. Turbo Stream. It's these longer days totally confuddling this wee brummy. Apparently he's getting confused with the dark or the light evenings now. It's nice to get light evenings, isn't it? What else have we got? Anna Jones is there saying good evening, gardeners. Good evening to you. Nathan, aka Allotted Chef, is there. Evening all. Good evening to you. The Kentish Gardener is there. Evening all. Good evening to you. Scott is there saying good evening all. Good evening to you. Nigel Money Boots that is there saying evening all. Good evening to you. Hargrave Gas. Evening and everybody. Evening and everybody. Hope you've had a great week. Bitterly cold out there this afternoon. I'll get into that in a minute, actually. It has been cold. Turbo Stream says, I have a surefire way to increase our seedling spaces. Go on, let us know. Nicholas says, evening all blustery, but nice. There's still a bit of daylight. There is. Rob says, my attic in 12 grow lights. Actually, I want to find out more about this because that's going to tie right in to what we're talking about. Nicholas put her hands up. Anna Jones has put her hands up. Ballycillion says every year. The Kentish Gardener says, I run out of space indoors regularly. Things get evicted to the greenhouse ASAP. Indeed. Kate's put her hand up. Rebecca is saying, hi, everyone. Hello to you. Hargrave says, double hands up. Always run out of space whilst there is still a risk of frost outside. And Stuart says, just a quick note, thumbs up, like, follow, etc., etc. Let's have a quick check on Instagram. Nothing going on over there just yet, although it does look a little bit behind. So, yeah, one of those problems that we have, let me just get myself into a bit of better position. One of those problems that we have is finding the good amount of space that we have. And I've just realized I forgot to upload the photos that show you what I'm dealing with. So let's have a quick, let me quickly bring these up. I have in my, what's the date today? In my, let's see if it's this one. Let's quickly get the rest up as well. I have in my kitchen a little shelving system into which I've fitted grow lights in order to try and maximize the amount of space I have. And it looks something like this. This is exactly what I have. The one on the very bottom that you can't quite see doesn't have grow lights. That's where I start my seeds off. They don't need light until they germinate. As soon as they germinate, I then move them up to the second shelf into the heated propagators. We move them on, we pop them on, and we try and make the most out of it. But there's only 3 shelves that I have here and only so many grow lights. We then eventually do move them on to another location, which is this. This again, just under grow lights, just on one of my kitchen worktops, where we try and get the most out of them. And then after that, this is what I suspect many people's kitchens look like. We move them onto our kitchen worktop, which, as you can see, is really, really full already of lots of plant light, lots of young seedlings. And this is the problem. We don't have a space to move anything on anymore. We run out quite regularly of space, and there's still a long way to go. Added to that, I've actually just found this cocktail trolley into which I've added more and more plants as well, with more and more young seedlings. So that is my current setup. That is my current setup. Oh, let me get rid of that. Sorry. Let me get rid of that picture. That is my current setup. That is how I'm currently trying to deal with trying to make the most out of my space. It is still too cold outside. We spoke about this earlier. I measured it was 3.5 degrees outside today. This is pretty cold, and our plants will not like it. Added to that, I find my greenhouse isn't heated. The greenhouse just isn't warm enough to cope with the plant, so I can't move it into there. I do have a grow house. I've got some onions and things like that at the moment, which they seem to be doing okay, but that space will quickly run out as well. So does everybody recognize that? What are your thoughts on that? Does everybody recognize those sort of kitchen window sills full up already? And is that something anybody else is finding right now, or am I just a little bit further ahead? Stuart says, I'm lucky to have a spare room, so still filling that before Miss J finds out. What does that? Has she lost that spare room and doesn't know it exists or something? That's actually saying I could do. I do have. Well, I don't have a spare room in my house as such, but I could make the most out of the rooms that we do have. The trouble I have myself personally, my windows faced east and west, so they don't actually get brilliant light. They don't get day round light, and light for me is the biggest issue. Grow lights are great, don't get me wrong, grow lights are great, but you do end up needing quite a few of them. But the trouble I have is lack of light. We're already seeing that at the moment. If you start your seedlings off and there's no light, they go leggy, they're not very strong, and they just don't seem to grow very well. And that's what we want to avoid. As added to that, there's also only so many hours. So in the middle of winter, it could be as little as 6 hours of sunlight. It's not enough for most plants. And we're now moving into a bit longer. We're getting about, was it sunrise about 7, sunset about 5. So what's that? 5, is that 14 hours? No, 10 hours of daylight a day. So we're getting a bit more, but light for me is the biggest issue. Added to that, how cold it can get outside. Richard Golden says, hello all, good evening to you. Turbo Stream says, my solution is this: win the lottery, buy a big house with land, build a walled garden, enjoy a head gardener, then seedlings place is not your problem. That is one action. That is one way we could solve this problem. But let's be realistic. Who can win the lottery? Turbo Stream says, my young seedlings are on a old mini greenhouse staging under grow lights. The seedlings will go in the porch until it gets warm. Then I brought a small plastic greenhouse. So straight away, we've got a great answer there. The 2 answers there. Mini greenhouse, the use of a porch, and a small plastic greenhouse. I am not a fan of the small plastic greenhouses. I find they get blown over too easy. But use of the porch, this is something I've not thought about before. I've got a porch out the front. It's faces east, so it only gets light late afternoon, really. So it's not an ideal solution, but it's something we can think about using. And it's not just porches. If you've got a conservatory or something like that, that might be something else we could use. Just have a quick check on Instagram. Lulu Stratford Field has joined. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Digwell says, I only sow what I know I have room for. No point starting things too early if they are going to die. That is actually a very good point. That is actually a very good point. But I like to get a head start. I do like to get a head start, especially with things like aubergines, chilies, and peppers, particularly. Kentish Garner says, I wish I had that restraint. Yeah, I'm with you on that. Nigel says, Richard, get one of those cheap plastic greenhouses that you hate. He's listened to the podcast. Put it inside your unheated greenhouse with a candle under an upturned clay pot. Amazing how cheap and efficient to heat. There we go. There we go. We're getting started straight away with a great option on not just heating a greenhouse, but how to get efficient at saving some space. Like it. I like it a lot. So yeah, get one of those cheap plastic greenhouses, put it inside the greenhouse, a little candle under a clay pot to create heat. Could it melt the plastic though? Let me know if you've ever done that. Nicholas says, I can't use my kitchen yet this year, even though I have heating finally, as I've got to have my ceiling taken down following the heating engineers flood my kitchen from the attic. So not sown yet. There's still plenty of time, but we're thinking I am ahead of myself this year, but in March, April, May, we're all going to be going through this as well. Once those tomatoes get growing and things like that. Turbo Stream says, actually, the best way is not to be too early. Sowing most of my seeds. I did multi-sow onions today, 12 cells with 5 to 6 onions per cell. Should see 60 onions in the space of half a gravel tray. Good idea, good idea. Holding off from when you're sowing to avoid that stress. Not a bad idea at all. Nicholas says, I can't even grow under the bed this year as furniture all stacked up from insulation work. It's a lot to do, isn't there? A lot to do. Chili Kate says, hi, everyone. I'm here now, a few hours on the allotment, and then I fell asleep. Hope everyone is well. Indeed, hope you are well. Hope you've had a good time on the allotment. Anna Jones says, if you can't really sow anything, prioritize always sow your favourites. Then veg that is expensive to buy, then decide about everything else. That actually is a good idea. And one of the things I do want to say is that, yeah, indoors I am sowing things like cabbages and tomatoes, peppers, chilies, some of the melons and cucumbers and things like that, which is way too early, but AI is telling me to sow those. But outdoors, not necessarily in outdoors, but perhaps in the cold frame or in the greenhouse, we could sow leeks, we could sow cabbages or winter lettuce and things like that that can cope with that cold a little bit better. Nigel says, used a small greenhouse with candle for many years. Plants survive even overnight frosts in an unheated greenhouse. So there we go. It does work. It does work. Sorry, I needed a swig of coffee there. Let's just have a quick check over on Instagram. Nothing going on over there. Turbo Stream says, I also sowed a small box of leeks in an old plastic grape tray. They will stay in there till April. I will sow more leeks outside in my seed bed in April to be planted out in the summer for winter. There we go. Yeah, again, holding off what you're sowing so you don't have that desperate need for space. Whatever works for you, you know. It works, it works. Kate says, my onions died again. I hate onions. Turbo Stream says, my small plastic greenhouse has 2 pockets to put a brick in each side to weigh it down. Where did you get that from? That is a good idea. Where did you get it from? Gary's joined, said, good evening, everyone. Sorry to be joining late. Not a problem. Lovely to see you. Digwell says to Muddy Rich, you can pick up 100-hour candles cheap at Lidl and Aldi, etc. There we go. Nicholas says, I think I will be putting shelving up in the lounge with grow lights. Only me to please. Absolutely. Turbo Stream says, in April, I will sow more seeds direct in my seed bed. So there we go. A lot of you are saying you're holding off from sowing your seeds. But what if you can't wait? What if you want to sow lots of, sow lots of seeds? Or like me, I'm trying to grow lots of seedlings, lots of plants this year because I'm trying to start my own plant nursery, trying to build up a little business just by sowing loads of plants and selling the ones that I don't need. it's going to be a big push, but it means I need to be ahead of myself. Really, I need more space. Now, I had an interview this week, because I'm looking for work. I'm currently unemployed, but I had an interview this week with a job I really, really, really want to get. But one of the things that they had, or one of the things that this company produces, is actually these fridges or temperature controlled environments. And they are just like a fridge. They have a fridge system on them, but they also have grow lights and heaters. And I like this. I like this a lot because it's given me a few ideas of something I could do myself. And I was looking at it and I'm thinking, oh yeah, I could make something like that. And what I'm imagining. So in the past, I had an old bottle fridge out in my garden. This is the type of bottle fridge that you would find behind a pub bar where they would have all the bottles and everything for sale. And I had that out in my garden, and I would basically use it as a bit of a cold frame, as a way of expanding the amount of space that I had as a cold frame, still getting them protected, but they were in this sort of cold frame. The trouble I had is that it got too hot, particularly when the sun was shining. In fact, it got so hot inside it, because this is glass doors, and the walls on the inside of this fridge is all silver. It got so hot that steam was pouring out of it when I opened the door. So it also got very, very humid as well. And it basically, it melted plastic on the inside. It was a bit like a cooker. So it didn't really work for what I was doing. And then when I saw this system, I suddenly thought, well, hang on, it's a fridge. If we control it right and add a heater with several thermostats, we could actually control this fridge and add a grow light, keep it in somewhere like a shed or a garage or even a kitchen. We could actually use that as a way. Now, this is completely imaginative, completely something I'm going to try and build because it's right up my street. Plus, it's going to be something I might be dealing more with in the future. But it's given me ideas. That shelving system that I showed you, that could be replaced by a fridge that also heats up as well. A little bit imaginative, I know, but it's a thought, isn't it? The Turbo Stream says the mini greenhouse came from a garden centre. It's got a green cover, not sure of the name. Sorry, not worries. Thank you very much anyway. Kate says, got fingers crossed for you. Got everything crossed for you, Richard. Yeah, I really want this job. I really, really want this job. Completely different to what I've done in the past, but research and development is really interesting. Jenny says, last year I used those wire plate shelves for cupboards. So I had 3 layers of seed trays, full 5-foot windowsill. Last year I used those wire plate shelves for cupboards. Wire plate shelves? What do you mean by wire plate shelves? Oh, were you talking that you just like pizza shelves? You had put those in your windowsill, and you basically had shelves on your windowsill. That's an idea, isn't it? Anna Jones says, seen a lot of YouTubers make extra space by hanging shelving in their greenhouses and polytunnels. Keeps the mice off too. Actually, I have looked at putting shelving inside my greenhouse, but I would want shelving that folds down easy if I was to do it. It should be fairly easy to do, actually. But yeah, I've been looking at this. I'm still worried about how cold it is in my greenhouse, though, unless we get a little diesel heater, as we've spoken about before. Turbo Stream says the warm crops like French runner beans will be sown direct or in seed cell trays in May. Yeah, holding off again until it is time. Nigel says, is there a lack of airflow using a fridge type structure? So coming back to the fridge idea, fridges, or these particular fridges, the more industrial ones, they actually have fans on the inside anyway to blow air around. So you're going to get air blowing around, which would help strengthen the plants up as well. But it also acts as a dehumidifier. A fridge works, but a fridge can dehumidify things as well by sucking moisture out the air. So we got 2 advantages to a certain degree. Nicholas says, is that what the pockets are for? I use paving slabs on the bottom of lower A greenhouses after the wind had them over the first year. Now, 4 years on, the cover is starting to go. You've still done all right. Digwell says, find an old big bottle chiller, 1980s pub, put the bottle bit outside and the compressor inside a greenhouse. Instant heat pump. Providing it's not colder than the fridge temperature or the colder than the thermostat outside for it to work. But yeah, a heat pump. A heat pump. Oh, perhaps I could heat my greenhouse with a heat pump. You've got me thinking now. You've got me thinking now. I told you once I find this job, I'll be thinking up ideas. Jenny says, like oven shelves, talking about this wire plastic thing in the windowsill, but they are plastic and store plates on, etc. Really cheap in shops like Home Bargains. Other shops are available. We're going to need to see a photo of this, Jenny, at some point. Please do post it in the group. But I like the idea, yeah, because again, this is something I've thought about in my own windowsills, just building a type of shelving system that would just, okay, it's going to block out a lot of light going into my kitchen, but it would increase the amount of plants that we could have. My wife is going to kill me if she sees or hears about all this. But yeah, a shelving system on top of the kitchen kitchen worktops or on top of the windowsills that just helps make that a little bit more space. I like this. I like this. Let's have a check on Instagram. Nothing going on over there. Turbo Stream says, my little greenhouse I only use in the spring now for hardening off a few things. It's a 4-tier ones. There we go. There we go. Then Nigel says, what is the running cost of fridge motor / pump? Don't know. Don't know. I know a fridge is one of the most expensive things to run, but not expensive as in kilowatt hours. It's because it's on 24 hours a day, although it doesn't run. But is it going to, if it's cheaper than heating, because again, I was thinking plant nurseries where they've got those huge greenhouses, if they've got these fridge type systems and they're cheaper to heat that than it is to heat a greenhouse, then it's probably going to be better in the long run. But yeah, good question. This is something if I get this job, I will be investigating as part of my role anyway. The colder the weather is outside, the better the air source heat pump works, I've been told, when my new heat pump was installed. The colder the weather outside, I don't think that's quite right, but heat pump is basically a fridge in reverse cycle. So they are, I've known about heat pumps for about 20 years, and I've always understood it that because they're trying to cool outside, transfer that heat from outside to indoors, it's a heat exchanger, if you like. They work better when it's hotter outside because there's more heat to remove. When it's colder outside is when they are less efficient, as I understand it. However, I'm not a heat pump engineer, I'm a fridge engineer, but it's the same sort of technology. But I don't have any experience with heat pumps, to be honest with you. Air source heat pumps is what I'm talking about. Ground source, where they basically plumb it into the ground, is totally different. But you have got me really thinking about this now, about making a heat pump to heat a greenhouse. I think it could work. I actually think it could work. And it could be more efficient. Oh, ha, ha, ha. Yeah. I'm going to have to look into this now. I really am going to have to look into this and see if I can make a heat pump to heat my greenhouse. I can picture it. I can see it being possible. The hardest thing is making it waterproof, but I can see it working. Anyway, beyond that, we're getting way too advanced, aren't we? So other than shelving, what other neat tricks do you have when you prick out your seeds and you need more space? Who just uses every available windowsill that you have, and your windowsills get really full? Is that seems to be the number one idea, or the thing that we all seem to be doing? But this is where Rob can come into play, because he was talking about his loft and grow lights. He has 20 grow lights up there where he starts off a lot of his young plants. I found my loft to be quite cold. Do you have heat up there? Tell us more about it. Tell us more about this loft. And if anybody else uses grow lights, tell us more about that as well. How do you use it, or what do you do that might be or of use to anybody else? As I said, one of the things I've seen at certain events, I've not got one myself, it tends to be used more in the likes of cannabis growing. It is the grow tents, which are like a tent that you erect, but it's reflective all on the inside, and you have grow lights on the inside. You put your seedlings, your plants in there. I think sometimes they have CO2 pumped in to try and be more efficient. But grow tents, does anybody actually use a grow tent? Is that something that anybody does? I've looked at it, I've thought about it, but I've not really had the chance to find space to have one. The Kentish Gardener says, I mostly use the top of my aquarium for light, but thinking about another option, I need some cheap grow lights, but not sure where to get them from. I've got some grow lights coming on Monday, actually, that were being sent to me. But yeah, cheap grow lights. I used to recommend IKEA when they used to do their grow lights for their hydroponics kits. I still use them to this day, actually, but they don't seem to sell them anymore. IKEA, I think they did one type that was just a standard Edison screw bulb. So you just screw it into any light fitting, set on a timer, and it was nice and easy. But they also did the strips, but I don't think they do them anymore. They weren't that expensive. The screwing bulbs were like £10, and the other ones were 20 quid. The strips were 20 quid, if I remember correctly. Kate says, I had a fold-down table to pot up against the glass patio doors. That's an idea. A fold-down table to try and make more space. That's a good idea as well. Turbo Stream says, bizarrely, I found the instructions. It's a Grow It compact grow house. It's one of those plastic with webbing in the cover and has pockets on each side for a brick or small slab. Excellent, excellent. Jenny says, window sills, porches, dining room, dining table, 6-foot trellis table by window, coffee table. I love it. All no lights or heat. South-facing windows for most, but some like the north-facing. You know, actually, something I haven't really mentioned is that some of my plants that are on my kitchen windowsill are shade-loving plants. My Venus flytraps, my vanilla orchids, they don't need much sun, and they actually seem quite happy there. So for young plants such as my chilies and peppers, it's not ideal, but they seem to be coping. Nigel says, to run my diesel heater for 12 hours heating an 8-foot by 6-foot greenhouses uses 1.4 litres of fuel. Currently paying around 80p a litre for kerosene. 12 hours equals £1.12. That's not bad, is it? Let's call that £1 a day to heat a greenhouse, give or take, because I'm sure there's times when you use less. But let's say £1 a day. That's not bad, is it? Simplified Gardening uses reflective space blankets. I think that could work. Yeah, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. Reflective space blankets, the type that you put around runners after the end of a run, or those sort of things. They're reflective, so they're going to reflect the light. For me, I think one of the biggest problems that we have as gardeners is we're all excited, but we think it's all about heat. But for me, the biggest problem is always light. In many ways, I think light is a bit more important than heat, and reflecting it back as much light as possible works as well. Rob says, okay, back, I was listening. We want to find out more about your loft space. We want to find out what grow lights you have, how much space you have up there. Tell us more. Tell us more. Chili Kate says, I have my heated propagators on a camping table in the spare room with grow lights. I like this idea. I have been debating getting another set of grow lights to set up under the table and use the space below. Again, I like this idea a lot. So heated propagators on a camping table, grow lights, making more room. My wife just won't let me get away with much more, I don't think. She's very, very patient. Very patient. Nigel says, I use a grow tent in my greenhouse with a large phytopod inside. There we go. Large Phytopod, for those that don't know, is a very good make of heater propagator. One I've been looking at myself quite a bit over this last week. Dreaming because I cannot afford one at the moment. Jenny says they all get thrown out in their zippy or cloches when they have their first true leaves. As early as that, check on Instagram. Can't forget Instagram. As early as that, when they go out, first true leaves, they go outside into your zippy tunnels. Turbo Stream says some crops to save space lend themselves for multi-sown, onions, beetroot, and leeks, etc. Multi-sown, yeah, you plant, say, 3 seeds in one plug plant. Now, actually, this is something I have been doing myself. Not so much the multi-sown. I think multi-sown is great, but what I've been doing a lot more lately is that when I sow seeds, I would use my quarter seed trays. So seed trays that sort of size, just to start my seeds off. But when I prick them out, I've been pricking them out into plug plants, and these are trays, and we get about 40 odd plants per tray. And because they're only quite small pots, they're not taken up. Often I find that many gardeners will, when they prick out their plants, they will pot them up into big sort of 6, 7, 8 centimeter pots. I haven't got one of those to show you, but your standard garden pot that you might buy from garden centre, they prick them out into that, and that for me takes up too much room. I'm really liking the fact that I'm pricking out into plug plants, and that is saving a lot of space, and they can actually stay in the plug plants for quite a while until the roots really are growing out the bottom. So plug plants, or using the plug plant trainers, plug plant trays, has been a really big thing for me to really get plants going. Jenny says, apart from peppers and aubergines, they get spoiled and stay inside. Absolutely. Nigel says, I've got space blankets around my Vitapod in the loft. Another person using the loft. I hadn't honestly thought about using the loft as a growing space until you guys have started talking about this, particularly Rob. And now I've been clearing out my loft while I've had a lot of time on my hands. And I'm sort of looking at it and thinking, I could put more plants up there, especially as a plant nurse. I'm at the beginning of a plant nursery. I'm liking this. I'm liking this a lot. Trouble is, my loft can get quite cold, so I would need to build something to insulate them up there. But I think we can do that. Rob says, then I got 12 lights placed as needed from rafters, one big bed around 6 foot off the floor. Yeah. Here we go. Okay, sorry, I missed this one, I think. Okay, my grow room / attic, got it all refloored for the weight and put cardboard up on most of the rafters, covered with emergency heat blankets, shiny side into attic. Also using like space blankets in the loft to reflect heat back in. Then you got your grow lights in there, and then your heated propagators. I'm liking this idea. a lot. I'll have to run power up into my loft, but I like this idea a lot. Got me thinking a lot. Also, I've got to say, if you are having something up in your electrical stuff running up in your loft as well, another thing to think about, smoke alarm. Get a smoke alarm up there just to be safe. Nicholas says, Kate, I did that last year under my bed, as was only warm room up to this year. Yeah, under the bed as well for grow lights and things. It works, doesn't it? Tabo Stream, my LED lights are very good for ensuring that the emerging seedlings are not leggy. You can get them potted. You can then pot them into natural lights when they get bigger. Yeah, exactly. I'm a big fan of grow lights. I never used to be, but now I've got them. I'm a big fan of them, and I can really see the difference. I don't really get leggy plants or leggy seedlings until they come away from under the grow lights, but that's something we're working on. That is something we're working on. We're going to try and get rid of the leggy as they try and get more grow lights going. Anna Jones says, if you don't use it much, there's always the ironing board in front of a window. Ironing board in front of a window. That could work as well. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. I'm also thinking they're not the strongest things, but a painting table, a pasting table, the type of table you often use for car boots or what do you call them? Pasting when you're wallpapering. That could be another alternative as another table as well. Digger says to Nigel, my 500-watt fan heater is about the same running cost, 12p per hour to heat to 15 to see, but obviously not on 24/7. Rob says tomatoes once tall enough goes on the floor with lights above. Rob, I would love to see a photo of your loft. I know you've got a YouTube channel I should check out, but love to see a photo because I'm really intrigued with this. Stuart says, I've used a wooden plant stand from the supermarket for free. Just ask him and they pot them in the bin. They are the correct size for seed trays. A wooden plant stand from a supermarket. That's an idea. That's an idea. I'm going to have to see if we can get some. I've actually got some garden centre trolley things for that they use for plants, but that's not going to work for this. Rob says, I was raided by the police a few years ago. I'm actually thinking I might do this in my garage first to test it out. But yeah, inch, not feet. Digwat says, I use thousands of Jiffy 7s a year. First lot of 240 chilies and just about sold out. So I've got to get into this. I've got a load of, not quite the Jiffy 7s, but those expandable coir plants. I need to get in and do some of those quite soon and practice that. So yeah, Jiffy 7s are those. They come in little discs. You put them in water and they expand, and then you got a little dimple for putting some seeds in as well. I need to do that, don't I? I need to do that. Oh, and I got a TAP. What's a TAP? A tap. A water tap, I'm guessing. Nigel says, I built shelves between the V frames, put buttons and fitted a shelf. Got double Vitapod up there with Mars Hydrolite and space blanket curtains. I'd love to see photos of this as well, Nigel. I know I should have reminded everyone that this is what we're going to be talking about, but love to see it. Digwell says, for the attic, CO2 alarm, CO alarm, fire alarm, panic button. Absolutely, absolutely. So many things I think you need in the loft that nobody really thinks about anyway, even if you're just using your loft for nothing. Jenny says, I use a solar fan in the porch to keep air circulating to help the seedlings. Good idea, solar fan. Turbo Stream says, I'm using the Jiffy 7s for cauliflowers. So two seeds per unit. Then when the roots show, I'm potting on into the 12-cell half trays to grow on. My tray has 12 cauliflowers and multi-sown onions. Those Jiffy 7s are very popular with some of you guys, aren't they? Rob says the attic's in the bungalow is best. More room. You haven't seen my attic. It's huge. It's huge. It's probably half the size of a house, our attic. Tell me, I pinch the weakest cauliflower when they germinate. Yeah, good idea. Nigel says, I put a separate ring circuit in the loft on its own trip in the fuse board. Have about 8 double sockets. Houses my computer server to keep it cool. I'm thinking the same thing as well, actually. I got a computer server. I'm going to get a second one as well. But I'm thinking of getting that up in the loft, as well as running the entire network and things like that. You really got me thinking, though. I really could use my loft. I have to tidy my loft, but the wife would kill me. But it's out of her way. Stuart says, with the supermarket plant stands, go to the little supermarkets as they are always happy for someone else to take them, as they always feel the skip. I have to check those out. I've got an itchy nose. Turbo Stream, I found it if I transplanted the cauliflower seedlings, they didn't always survive. Yeah, they can be a little funny, cauliflowers. They're one of the hardest. Digwat says, end of conversation then. Get your attic sorted. Yeah, get your attic sorted. One of my things that I wanted to do, unfortunately, I can't afford to do it now. But what I was going to do, I got an itchy nose. I got an 8-foot by 6-foot shed in my garden, which is not a very good shed, I'll be honest with you. It's next to my greenhouse, and I was going to take down that shed, and in its place, I was going to fit a 6-foot by 6-foot potting shed, or maybe a greenhouse shed combination where half of the shed would be the greenhouse. Now, my idea here is that they have big windows, so I was thinking that was going to be easy to let more light in, a bit like I used to have. You may recall, because I actually started doing live streams in there. I used to have that sort of greenhouse shed thing in my garden that was made out of corrugated iron and twin wall polycarbonate. I was going to get something like that. I'm thinking if it was smaller, it's going to be cheaper and easier to run. I was going to insulate it as much as possible as well, but I was going to use that as a seed starting shed, a seed starting room. Which is still on my plans. It's still something I would like to do, but the attic idea has really got me thinking. Really got me thinking. Nigel says, worst thing you can do is board your loft. Becomes an out-of-sight dumping ground. Ask me how I know. How do you know, Nigel? Is it because you've done it yourself? You don't even need a boarded loft. I've got, when we moved into my house, the previous owners used old doors in there to basically board them, and yeah, it's became a dumping ground. Hence why I've spent this bit of time off sorting it out and getting rid of stuff that we don't need. Been selling at a car boot. I hate car boots. Well, I don't hate them, but I hate selling. But hey, times are tough. Times are tough. Mine is a dumping ground for seedlings, says Rob. I really like this idea of using the attic. I was thinking the garage, but the attic, the loft, opens up more ideas. Is anybody else? I'm going to throw this question. Anybody thinking, following this conversation, put your hands up if you are thinking of using your loft following this conversation. Over on Instagram, Georgiana Coles has joined and Allotment 27 has joined. Welcome along. We're talking about how you make the most out of the space. How do you make the most amount of space for your seedlings? Yeah, I'd like to know if anybody is thinking of using their loft and grow lights. The trouble is, and I'm thinking out loud here, if you're using your loft, you're going to need to get grow lights. So that means spending money. You're probably also going to need heated propagators as well. And this is something I kind of wanted to steer away from a bit, in that I didn't really want people spending money. But sometimes we have to, don't we? Sometimes we have to spend money. What have we got? Nicholas says, I got vermiculite that people have had as insulation used for outside pots and beds. Got for very free or cheap. Yeah, vermiculite is used as an insulation. Yeah. Digwell says, don't forget that loft still needs to be ventilated as per building regulations. Are you talking if you board out and insulate it, you still need to have a vent? Yeah. Yeah. Turbo Stream says, my late dad boarded a loft. I gave myself a hernia taking them up to insulate, then pot it back. I might consider using my loft, actually. It's a good idea. I'm really thinking about it because it is going to keep everybody happy. Nigel says 60mm or 80mm OSB board is a cheap, strong way of creating loft flooring. Yeah. Yeah. The tongue and groove stuff that slots together is basically just so you can fit it through the loft hatch. In fact, I know, I mean, again, this is one of these conversations that got me thinking. Somebody at our camera club, when he used to develop his film photography stuff in the days when you needed a darkroom, he did it in his loft. He set it up in his loft. So, yeah, the loft as another place. I'm liking this idea. My bedrooms are in a loft, small loft space, which I'm hoping to put an ensuite in. Nicola can't use her loft then, is what she's saying. Tammy Stu says, my loft is well ventilated. It's a 1930s house. Same here. So windy up there, so might not be suitable, though. Bit of wind will actually, because it's not going to be strong winds coming through unless you lose your roof. Then I think plants are going to be your last thing that you worry about. But a bit of wind will actually do your plants some good, your seedlings some good. I always like to sort of brush against my seedlings when they're young on a daily basis to imitate wind. But what some people actually do is put a fan up against their seedlings to blow air across, just a gentle one, to sort of simulate wind, just to make the plants a little bit stronger. Well worth doing. Well worth doing. Nigel says should be an air brick as minimum in loft and maybe some soffit fence. We've got soffit fence in ours, I think. I don't know. Mine's a 1930s house. There's no signs of anything being a problem, so I think it's okay. Toby Stream says my seeds are in my lounge as we speak. Being single, it don't matter. Yeah, I mean, if I was single, I would have them everywhere. But my wife, you know, this is my wife's house as well as mine. We have to work together. She has to be happy as much as I have to be happy. So otherwise, I would have plants everywhere. Everywhere. Nigel says, I still have my camera film processing gear in the loft. That's how using the space started. Yeah. Yeah, you really got me thinking about this now. You really have got me thinking. Over on Instagram, Lots of Fun has joined, and Allotment27 says, I have used a loft in the past and it worked great with grow lights, of course. I'd recommend Rig Tool ones. Really good value. Thank you. I've never heard of Rig Tools, but yeah, any good suggestions of grow lights? Reasonably well priced. Skinny Jean Garner has joined and says, yes, finally I get to watch a Sunday live. And Martinez and Marigolds has joined. Lovely to see you. We're talking about how you make the most amount of space, or how do you find or make the most amount of room for your seedlings. That's what we want to find out, because it's something we all have problems with. Turbo Stream says, Nigel, that's what Dad did in the loft. For spent many an hour with him developing prints. I'm really thinking my loft. My wife is going to kill me though. Nicola, me too, Turbo. So no one to please. All right, no need to rub it in. I need more space. I could do with more room. Last house mortgage demanded rot treatment in the loft. Spent weeks getting the vermiculite out as requested. Pestman turned up and said I could have sprayed that through that. Interesting. A swig of coffee coming up. We do have a few things to get through actually tonight, and I don't know where to start really. But yeah, let's carry on this conversation, because it seems to be something you're really talking about now. The downside I'm thinking of using a loft. Obviously, you need grow lights. Recommendations for grow lights. Let's get some recommendations for grow lights, because I personally. I spoke about this when we spoke about grow lights in the past. There's a lot on the market. I prefer the ones that emit this sort of white or blue or red light, but they're not the purple ones. I really don't like the ones that emit a purple light. I don't know why. I just don't think they are right. But there are so many different types of grow lights. Some of the cheaper ones are not as good as some of the more expensive ones, of course. But as you can see, I mean, this is growing quite well. I won't move it, but we've got a mini tomato plant right here, which is really it's a bit out of focus on this camera, but it's really tough and strong and doing really well in that. So it's doing well under these grow lights. And the great thing with this one is I can move it up and down to try and get the most out of it. Yeah. What have we got? We've got Turbo Stream says I could get a serious amount of seeds germinating in my loft. It's got loads of space, being an old style design. I could too, and it means I could actually start off my nursery business really well, and also in the garage as well as another option. The garage is probably going to be easier, to be honest with you. What you tell a wife is it would be a lot safer if we boarded the attic out, then I won't fall through the boards putting Christmas decorations away. Yeah, that would work. That would work, because she has a lot of Christmas decorations, and you know my thoughts on Christmas. She has a lot of them. Nigel says different light colours cover different spectrum ranges. That is true. It's the purple lights. I just don't like them. I don't know what it is. I don't like them. Turbo Stream says the purple lights are full spectrum, Richard, but are they? Are they? Think about it. Sunlight isn't. It has purple light in it, but it's not purple. So if they're full spectrum, it's not. It's just the purple spectrum of the light. They're not full spectrum at all. They're missing out the reds and right up through to the purples, the blues maybe. That's why I don't like them. They're missing out on the red spectrum lights. Nicholas says Rob also gets Richard out of downstairs rooms. I really do like this idea of using a loft. Rob says I have 2 T5s and the rest are spider farms. Anything going on over on Instagram? Got to keep an eye on Instagram at the moment, because people are chatting over there. Yeah, nothing going on over there. I'm liking this idea. But I tell you what we're going to have to do, because time is marching on. The conversation's not over. We're going to have a quick cook-along break. So we're going to quickly go to what you suggested we cook for this week. As you know, each week I try and get you to suggest something to cook. Last week you came up with 3 suggestions. Baked eggs, a pumpkin or a squash soup, and a microgreen salad. Well, I could only do the baked eggs in the end. I couldn't find any squashes in our supermarkets, and I forgot to sow the microgreens. So I could only do the baked eggs, I'm afraid. 1 out of 3. You tell me if that's failed or passed. Okay, this week's recipe or cook-along is baked eggs. So what I've got here is a kilo of tomatoes that I've chopped into wedges. I've added a bit of seasoning, salt, pepper, herbs and some olive oil, giving it a good sort of stir around, and then just added some more on the top. This is going to go in the oven, gas mark 6, I'm not sure what that is in temperature wise, but gas mark 6 for about 40 minutes, and then once that's cooked we'll see how it comes out. Okay, well, we've just walked the dog, and as you can see this is all lovely and baked, falling apart nice and easily, so I'm just going to give it a bit of a stir. And see all that lovely juices came out as well. I'm going to just crush them slightly as well to get some of that spreading out. And now what I'm going to do is crack in some eggs. I'm not going to be able to do that while holding the camera, so what I'm going to do, cracked in 4 eggs. So now that's going to go in the oven for about 10-15 minutes and it'll be ready. And here it is cooked. Didn't take long, and it was mostly leave it and forget about it. What does it taste like? We'll find out in the studio. So here we go. This is the tomato and baked eggs dish. So come back to me and let's see how it tastes. Reminded me a lot of shishaluka when I was cooking this. That's lovely. That is lovely. That is lovely. Bit like shishluka, which is one of my favourites. I mean, I can't think of how to pronounce it correctly, but not spicy. Obviously, much more fresher. I could eat that for breakfast, actually. So yeah, that's a solid 9 out of 10 for this week. Baked eggs. Hopefully, I did the right thing for baked eggs. Scott can tell us if that was what he meant when he suggested baked eggs. I think it was Scott who suggested it last week. So coming back to the conversation, Timebase Stream says those poor innocent purple lights. That's because I said about what they often used for. Yeah, that's why I'm not a fan, but I just don't think they're full spectrum at all. Nigel says lights. I have Spider Farmers, Mars Hydro, and Sunblasters T5s. The T5s are my favourites, but these have been replaced by LED tubes. LED tubes. Now, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of LEDs, but yeah, Spider Farmers I've heard a lot of, and all the others. So excellent. Digwell says, if the blurple lights are so good, then why are the expensive ones white? Exactly right. I don't like the purple ones. I don't think they are good for plants. I'm willing to be corrected on that, but I just don't see it myself. Perhaps that's an experiment we should do. Idaho Garden Girls joined. Hello, Richard and everyone. Sorry I'm late. Lovely to see you nonetheless. Hope you are well. Over on Instagram, Plot 110 Sussex has joined. Hello. I've been meaning to get back to your email for a couple of months now. I haven't forgotten. Everything's gone crazy. I will email you tomorrow when I'm on the train, actually. Rob says T5s are good, but you can't turn them down. Just move them higher or lower. Jenny says, mission, plan, draw, and cost a unit to build in the garage or loft, included all needed, such as light and heat. Okay, I can do that. That sounds like a good mission for next week. raise them on with the pulleys. Talking about the lights, yeah, raise them or higher them. A bit like I was pointing out, this light can move up or down, but yeah, raise and higher them if they get too hot or too close. Turbo Stream says, I don't know about LED spectrums, but my LED on my purple setting seems to start the seeds off okay. There are certain elements where plants needs a bit more of one light or do best under one type of light than others. Let's see what, yeah. There could be some truth in it. I just don't like them. I've not tried them though, to be fair. Digwell says, good idea and film Amanda's reaction. Absolutely, absolutely. Rob says, in reply to Nigel, I mean the brightness from 0 to 100. Yeah, but if you higher or lower them, they're going to be more or less bright. So, yeah. That's the way around it, I guess. What else have we got? Digwell says, looks good. Yeah, it's all right. It's all right. I like it. I give it a 9 out of 10. Definitely something I could eat for breakfast. I will be eating for breakfast tomorrow as well. Plots of Fun has joined us over on YouTube. Evening, Richard and chat. Welcome along. Lovely to see you. Please do feel free to join in the conversation. Jenny says, Digwell, just seen your comment about the fan. What did he say about the fan? I can't see it, so you might have to repeat it. Nigel says blue lights, green growth, red lights, flower and fruiting. There is that. There is that. And then Digwell says they are not purple, they are blurple. A mix of blue and purple. They're right on that sort of boundaries from, if you think of a light spectrum, you've got the ultraviolet, which is the light we can't see, and that's more the purple end. But before you get to purple, you get the blue. So they're right on that higher end. Was it the lower end? One of the two. They're right on that end of the spectrum, that blue purple light. To me, they look purple though. I'm just not a fan. Just not a fan. But in the attic, you are restricted for height in most places. Not in my attic. Not in my, except right on the edges. But I've got very steep pitches on mine. Turbo Stream says, write a thesis on the benefits of blurple lights for seedlings. I think we've got the mission worked out, but we could, I think at some point, we're going to have to do an experiment, see the blurple lights. I've got to get, I'm not going to be able to do that for a while, because obviously I need a job before I can buy some of these lights to compare the two. But when I get a job, that might be something we can do an experiment with. Rob says even white light has blue in it. Exactly, that's full spectrum. It has blue. White light is a mixture of all the colours coming together, and that's why we see white light when actually it's a mixture of all the colours. Going back to my science days. Digwell says the colour is more important for cannabis growers, etc., not veggies. I agree with that. I do agree with that. Let's have a quick check on Instagram. John Jerkles, in 2 years working on empty social housing, I must have seen 10 to 15 lifts converted. Lifts converted to growing plants. Lifts. I can see that working with reflective light and everything. I can definitely see that working. That makes sense. That metal sort of casing all the way around is going to reflect light everywhere. Yeah, I can see that working. Obviously, it's probably converted, or maybe a bit presumptuous of me, but obviously converted for the cannabis growers. Turbo Stream says blue light affects plant growth, leaf expansion, photomorphogenesis, stomatal opening, photosynthesis, and pigment accumulation. That means that blue light is important for vegetative growth. He goes on to say, I may have Googled that. The LED companies call them blurple for a reason. They're cross between blue and purple. They're right on that spectrum. Yeah. Next week's project, the cooler heat pump trial. Anyone else like to see it? It's going to take more than a week, that. Plus, I've got to get the... Oh, I do have a load of scrap I could use. Leave that with me. Leave that with me. I think we could do something. It's going to be a long-term project, but I think I can do something with that. Red of York gave red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Yeah, blue, indigo, violet. That's the end of the spectrum, isn't it? Yeah. What else have we got? Good idea too. Good idea too. Cooler heat pump trial. It's going to take me a while, but I think I can do something with that. I really do think I can do something with that. Using a heat pump to heat a greenhouse. Make a heat pump to heat a greenhouse. Yeah. It's going to be very rough and rudimentary at first, but I think I can do that quite easily. It's going to take a while, though. It's not going to be an easy build. I need to sort my workshop out first as well. God, you're making me... I've got so much to do. I'm away for 2 days this week, and I'm hoping to get a job soon. So while I'm off, I need to do these projects. I need to finish sorting my loft out and build it up, build my growing station up there. I need to sort my garage out, build a growing station up there, and then build this heat pump for the greenhouse, as well as tidy my workshop out. You're keeping me busy, but I like this idea. Now, this seems like a good time to go to the mission. Now, we're going to actually do this mission live in tonight's show. So what this week's mission was to start off some sweet potato slips. We got a sweet potato and we've also got some sticks. But before we start that off, what we're going to do is Jenny actually sent me over some photos because she's done this many times in the past. So this is how she recommends, or the photos that she sent me to show us how it works. So first of all, these are her 3 sweet potatoes. These are probably from a couple of years ago, I think she said. As you can see, they're basically sitting in glass, cocktail sticks to hold them over, and the glasses have water in them. So first of all, secondly, these are the roots that are developing, which is what we want. And these are in the bit that is in the water. So that's just another angle, but you get the idea of what's going on. So this is where we can start to see at the very top, the shoots are starting to show themselves. They're starting to grow. These are the slips that we want. Once they start growing like that, we know we are there. And as you can see, they continue growing, still keeping that water going. Jenny did say you need to keep them somewhere with plenty of light and change that water weekly. And this is then when they are really well underway. I'm guessing these need to be indoors in somewhere warm to get that sort of growth. Turbo streams are are a sun-loving crop, aren't they? So they do need a bit of warmth. As you can see, all 3 of them, they seem to be showing quite good growth after a while. I don't know how long this was actually, Jenny. Perhaps you could share that with me. And this is what you have to do. You have to remove those slips with the roots from the sweet potatoes. It'd be good to see how that was done, but I'm guessing you just cut it away. Then you stick those slips into some water to try and get those to root. And then you plant those up once you've got some good roots into plots of multi-purpose compost. And there you go. That's a better shot of them with the roots growing. Pop them all up, get them growing, and then you can plant them out in about May. Now, these, I'm a bit confused about these ones. I think this is before Jenny removed the slips. You can see there's lots of roots on the bottom of these sweet potato plants. These are then, and then she's planted those up. Is this another way of doing it, but that I'm not aware of? Let us know. Let us know. She does go on to say south-facing windowsill took approximately 2 weeks to root and another week or so to shoot. Then they rocket away. So when I've done this in the past, I've always found that they've oh, hang on, let me get rid of that. They've always rotted before they get anywhere. So what I've got, it's not a glass, I'm afraid. It's a a mug. It was actually a mug that came with a coffee plant. I've half filled this up with water, which is difficult to show with you. We've got our sweet potato. I couldn't find any cocktail sticks, so I've taken a cane and I've cut that into 4 pieces. And I'm thinking what Jenny said in her email to me is that you've got 2 ends and you want the pointier end into the water, which to me looks to be this bit because it's got a few roots coming there. But now I'm looking at it, I can see we've got roots at this bit as well. So I'm hoping Jenny is going to say to me which bit to have in the water while I stick these canes into the sweet potato, which are just there to support the sweet potato above the water, because we don't want the sweet potato fully submerged. It's just so it holds it just above the water and stops it from rotting. Let's see if Jenny's came back. Not yet. I'm going to go out as a punt. Let's put that 4th one in. And then we'll move over to this camera. And all we're going to do is suspend that like that. I'm guessing that's the right way to do it. And we will wait and see if that produces roots and if it produces slips. In fact, what I'll do, I will keep this here next to those grow lights so that every week we can remember to go and check on it all the time. Right, let's have a look. Anna Jones, yes, get started on the heat pump. I can do that. I like the costing for garage for a lot. The heat pump is going to be a long-term project. It's going to take me longer than a week, especially as I'm going to make it out of scrap. I'm obviously, the fridge gas, that's going to be the problem. I don't have a van to get fridge gas anymore. I'll work on that bit. Yeah, I'll work on that bit. That's going to be the problem, but I can work on that. A heat pump should be right up your skill set, Richard. It would be. It's just the fridge gas, because I'm not prepared to go and buy a bottle of fridge gas for about £500. I'll work on that bit. Over here, they call it a guy named Roy G. Biv. Roy G. Biv. No idea. Never heard of that phrase. So that's an interesting one. Turbo Stream says, with all these jobs, how the hell do you find time to work? I struggle. I mean, I don't know how I found time to work when I was working. Nigel says, get the heat pump project underway and then use it as a project talking point at job interview. Yeah. It's something to think about, isn't it? Chili Kate says, my sweet potato is at the ready. I saved one from dinner. There you go. Hopefully I've done that right. I'm going to see what Jenny says to see if I've done that right. Nigel says, wait until you retire, even less time. Beto says, what about aircon units from cars? Only 12 volt there. Must be similar to a fridge. The trouble with a 12 volt from a car is they rely on the engine. They need a high speed to turn the compressor, belt-driven compressor. You'd be better getting a 12 volt fridge, such as used in camping, for this sort of thing. It needs to be a compressor fridge, not the cool box type, because they are crap. They don't generate heat in the same way as a fridge. Toby Stream says, I'm retired. Jenny says, self-facing windowsill took approximately 2 weeks to root, then another week or so to shoot, then they rocket away. Okay, I'll keep a close eye on it. Belt driven by the Yorks via mag clutch, talking about the AC from a car. Yeah, it's not going to it's going to be a bit harder to do it from a car. I think I can just getting the fridge gas is the only problem I can foresee. Chili Kate says, method I saw was to cut a potato in half, place the cut halves in compost. Has anyone tried that method? Yeah, I think that might have been those last couple of photographs, actually, that Jenny sent me, but we'll see. The last ones I plant, the spent potatoes to use as bedding plants or salad leaves. They won't grow potatoes. They will be too spent of energy. Oh, so you cut the potatoes and then just made salad leaves from what grew. Okay. Turbo Stream says, I certainly did, Nigel. 30 years in a printing factory was more than enough. Thanks. Jenny says, it's normally the pointy end down, but look for eyes. Aye, aye. Let's have another look. Let's have another look for eyes. There's eyes all over it. There's eyes all over it, including on the top. But she does say that was perfect, so we think we've got it right. You need a jam jar, Richard, so you can see the progress. I could do. Nigel says, Roy G. Biv, rainbow spectrum. Oh, of course, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. I see it now. Thank you. I see it now. Use ammonia and hydrogen. Ammonia is harder to get hold of. You need quite special qualifications for ammonia refrigeration that I don't have. Hydrogen is a possibility. CO2 is another possibility, but you need relevant qualifications. But the compressors I have don't run on that. I've got to think of a way of doing it. I was a font of all knowledge talking puns coming out from their thing, their printing press. Do they spray seed potatoes, sweet potatoes in supermarkets like other veg to prevent rooting, etc.? They do. You want it organic, ideally. Organic from somewhere where it's quite reputable. Have a quick check over on Instagram. Nothing going on in there. Oh, where were they? Digwell says, mine was all mashed up in the bag in the freezer, talking about his sweet potato there. I heard you was type-faced. Yes, Nicola, you can just give them a good scrub, but I buy organic. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up. Yeah, please hit the thumbs up. Don't forget to follow and subscribe so you know when we go live and all that jazz. But yeah, we've got a sweet potato underway and that. We have got, what should we do? Right, let's get into, there will be photos in just a moment, but let's get into the rent of the week. And this week's rent, I've not made a video for this. I'm going to do this live. And it comes from, because I think the conversation about seedling space is over, but we'll recap in a moment. But the rant of the week actually comes from a video that Kate Spratt shared in our Facebook group. And she went to a garden centre. She was having a bit of a bad day, and she brought a cacti. And this cacti had these lovely little flowers on it. Well, she realised that these flowers were not natural. They were like pins, unnatural pins that had been pushed into the cacti to make it look like they were flowered. They were flowers, sorry. And she actually, in the video, she got a pair of tweezers and was pulling these flowers out of the cacti. And I said to her, I would be utterly annoyed with that. I would be complaining to the garden centre, which is true. I do think it is something worth complaining about. So here's my rant. What is it that gives a garden centre the right to think it can rip customers off by doing something like that? Pushing pins into a cacti to give it fake flowers not only gives the buyer something fake, something they didn't think they thought was genuine, but these annoying little flowers that are pushed into the cacti and could damage the cacti. Whenever you cut open a plant or anything, you risk of pests, diseases getting inside that plant and killing it from the inside out. Now, even if it did survive, you pull these pins out, you're going to have scars on these cacti. It's just not good practice. It's really not good practice, I don't think. It gives a really bad, false image. And this is one of those things that is annoying me about garden centres. They seem to be more interested in selling you something that looks nice instead of selling you plants that actually are right. I'm really annoyed about this for Kate particularly, but I just think it's wrong. I think it's wrong. What's your thoughts on that? Do you think we could really have a rant about garden centres ripping customers off by putting fake flowers inside its cacti? I mean, you wouldn't go across and find a rose with a fake flower. Now, that being said, We do know that at like Chelsea flower shows, some of the flowers, some of the apples, even on trees, are fake. They're often secured on to make them look like they're in flower. What about they are in fruit, because that's what's expected. But you expect that at a flower show, you know that's not natural, and you're not going to be buying a display garden. But you're buying this cacti. You're buying this cacti. It's wrong. Very, very wrong. Right. Idaho says, I hate it when cacti are abused like that. Over here, they use hot glue to glue the flowers on. It's wrong. Hot glue especially. I mean, I know cacti are tough, but hot glue just seems wrong. Digrat says, no electric needed in an ammonia/hydrogen fridge, just a candle, etc. Yep. Albert Einstein's name is on the patent for an ammonia fridge because it works without moving parts is the idea. But you do need an electric heater or candle. It's the ammonia side of things, because ammonia is quite poisonous, and you need certain licenses for it. It makes it harder, makes it much harder. I can't touch ammonia gas with my qualifications. Who knows, in future I might have those qualifications though. Jenny says that is terrible, not only bad for the plant but also selling a false item. Don't get me started on spray heather or glitter covered dwarf conifers. Exactly. Unnatural things pot on plants. Who pots glitter? I know there is edible glitter, but who wants glitter on their conifers naturally? Kate says she's complained. Good. Nicholas says they also glue on flowers. So wrong, like spraying heather greens and blue flower stems. Dreadful. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's so unnatural, isn't it? Tabby Street says fake flowers. What about the painted heather plants you see? Boils my ammonia, that does. I like how you tied that all in nicely. But yeah, painted heather plants. It's just wrong, isn't it? How much damage does it do to the heathers? I've got to admit, I don't know much about heather plants, but I'm guessing like most plants, they're green for photosynthesis. It's how they get their energy. So surely by painting heathers, make them a different color, they're not going to photosynthesize as much. Perhaps somebody can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but that's my logic. Digrat says, what about the cacti that are grafted with a flower from another variety? Yeah, it's just wrong, isn't it? And people who don't know what they're doing, who go in and buy a cacti because they just like the look of it, are being ripped off. And that's what annoys me. Our Great Gas says, my wife bought some cacti with fake flowers. Not something I would ever do, but she knew what she was buying. They are usually clearly labelled. Sorry. Now, if they are clearly labelled, then I'm okay with that. If they are clearly labelled, then I'm okay with it. It's if they are not clearly labelled that I have a problem with it. And when I say clearly labelled, I mean clearly labelled. From what I understand from Kate, she didn't read it properly, admittedly. She was in a bit of a bad day mode. But I think if it was clear, she would have touched it with a barge pole. Chili Phil says, sweet potato is now set up with cocktail sticks in a glass. Fingers crossed. Want to see photos to see how you get on over the coming weeks as well. Anna Jones says, I've often seen those false flowers on cacti and garden centres. Seems to be a pretty common practice. It does seem that way. It does seem that way. Moneyroot says, Richard, do you still have your refrigerant gas certificate so you can buy gas? Just thinking, if you started as independent engineer again, who you need to get recertified. So I do have my refrigerant gas certification. I would need to register with Refcom to buy gas as well. It's refrigerant gas is very controlled because it is a greenhouse. You can't, in the past, you used to be able to buy aircon gas for your car from Halfords, but it came into law you couldn't buy it. The other trouble is the smallest gas bottles are about 9 kilos. They used to do 1 kilo bottles, but they got banned a few years ago. But they're usually sold in about 9 kilo bottles, probably about 300 quid plus you pay a rental on the gas bottle. For something this size, I might need 300 grams at the most. So it's going to cost me 500 quid for this sort of thing unless I can make it work. But it's something I can think about. I might be able to call up a few friends and see if I can get a bit of gas to do it anyway. Or I wonder if Dad has some in his garage. Idaho says, I see the grafted ones. The base is green and the cacti at the top is irradiated, some weird colour of pink, purple, blue. Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it? It is horrible. Turbo Stream says, interesting, Digwell. Certainly a lost skill nowadays. What was that? Oh, talking about printed or something, I think. Air plants are often glued onto bark branches. Yep, they are, aren't they? And that annoys me as well. Air plants naturally graft themselves onto wooden branches, onto wooden bark. They should be able to do it in their own way. Nicholas says, dye carnation flowers blue in water. It's wrong, isn't it? And Digwell says, I've seen Christmas trees with fake snow sprayed on it. It's wrong. It's just so wrong. Turbo Streams, poinsettia by a door in winter, guaranteed to die in a few hours. Also, indoor cyclamen sold as outdoor ones that die in the first frost. That's because these plants are not like they are from Jamaica. They're not really a Christmassy plant naturally, but we force them to be ready at Christmas. It's a case of not knowing much about plants, I think. Kay says these weren't labelled. I would have normally noticed, but my mind wasn't in the best state. I wouldn't have touched them had I realised. There we go. That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Digwell says clearly labelled is okay for one person, not the next. Not all can read, dyslexia, colour blindness, etc., etc. Absolutely. I think, you know, when I say clearly labelled, I think it should be in big, bold letters. These are fake flowers when it comes to that sort of thing. If you're selling something fake, it needs to be big, bold letters that this is fake. Digwell says, and the reclaim manifold, vac pump, etc. I've got a reclaim unit. I've got a gauge manifold of my own. I don't have a vac pump, but I'm sure I can borrow Dad's. That's the only thing I don't actually have of my own. I've got scales. I've got everything I need, brazing kit, everything I need except for vac pump and the fridge gas. Vac pump I can get, fridge gas I can probably get. And for those that don't know, these are refrigeration tools that Digwell knows a bit because he was a refrigeration engineer in his past life. And that's what we're talking about here. Very specialized tools. I don't know yet. The flock Christmas trees, not a fan. Now you can even buy a fake Christmas tree with fake snow. Fake. I've got no problems with fake Christmas tree actually, because it's it's fake. You know it's fake, and you can use it year after year after year. Turbo Stream says, I brought Sickman and asked a question. She said they were outdoor ones, all died off. Doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me. Idaho, each to their own. Absolutely. Now, Digwell, I have an old vac pump, but it sucks. So, as I said, a vac pump is a refrigeration tool, and it sucks a vacuum into a fridge so that when you charge it up, there's no moisture in the system. It sucks, and that's the joke behind that for those that don't know. Beto says, I once bought a genuine fake Rolex watch on the market in Spain. See, if you're told it's fake, you don't mind, do you? You know it's fake. You're not being ripped off. And that's the big thing for me. If you know it's fake, you're okay with that. Right, let's have a look at your photos. It's about that time when we should look at your photos. We've got about 5 minutes to go. We'll look through these and then we'll have a roundup for what we're doing. Oh, I think we worked out the mission. Hopefully Jenny's taken a note so she can send it over to me. What do you want me to cook next week as well? Have a think about that for next week's cook along. Now, Lee, I don't think we've seen him in the chat, but he does watch and he does listen to the podcast. He's been organising his shed and tidying his greenhouse this weekend. And I've got to say, I love this organised shed. I spoke in the podcast about shed porn. This is the type of thing I like. Seeing tools laid out, nice and organised, easy to get to. Same with all my plant feeds and everything like that. Shed porn, as I've called it. Now, one other thing that we spoke last week about pallet projects, building that pallet seed tray. Excuse me. And I asked for other examples. I used this in the podcast as well. Other examples of pallet projects. Richard sent this over. He made this raised bed out of pallets, which looks great. I've got to say, really does look great. Thank you very much. Chili Cake planted her rescued blackcurrants. I say rescued. They came from the bargain basement in a corner, in a garden centre. I can't remember how much they were, but something like 10p or something like that. Rescued, and they look like they're doing okay, don't they? And Digwell has sent some humour. He says broccoli is said to be good for joints, so here goes. We've made a bit of comments about this sort of thing today. All jokes aside, broccoli is good for you. Make broccoli great again is a saying I hear on LBC. Make broccoli great again. Now, Nicola is looking at one of these, but she's debating whether to go for a white or green one. I think white because I think they look better and add a bit of contrast, but they will show up in the mud a little bit more. So please do keep sharing your photos, post in our Facebook group, send to me via social media, or email me, richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. That's richard@veggroundpodcast.co.uk. Now, I said about Lee with that shed porn. Plots of Fun is Lee. I've just realised, yes, of course you said about that. Thank you so much for that photo. I love seeing those sort of organised sheds. In fact, I was thinking that next week we could talk about sheds, particularly what shed you got, how you tidy it up on the inside. Love to see some videos. That being said, Tuesday I am, and I know some people in the audience are as well, we are going to, because we can do the shed porn week another time, but we are going to an event on Tuesday called the Garden Press event, and it's basically where we're going to be where brands go and get their products for the year in front of the public. And I'm going to go there on Tuesday, take photos, take videos. And I thought we could go through everything I see and chat about it with you guys if you prefer. These are upcoming projects for the following years. Now, I know some of you in the audience are going to be there as well. And if you're going, I would love it if you would also, if we do this next week, which I think is more than likely, if we do this next week, could you make some little videos just to play in about products that you noticed as well for next week? You know, sort of as the Veg Ground Podcast rolling report. You don't have to, but if you could, I think that would make a good little show. What do you think on that? Digwell says sausage rolls for next week. Oh, I could do sausage rolls. Would love a sausage roll, actually. I could do with a sausage roll right now. Idaho says, I'm knee deep in snow here. Probably going to start my chili seeds indoors. And in fact, Idaho, that's a prime example of what we've been talking about today, about starting plants off indoors and trying to save space. If it's knee deep in snow, you can't even contemplate putting your chilies or things like that outside. Jenny says, great photos, everyone. Turbo Stream says, white Nicola. Talking about that. Plots of Fun says, you're welcome. Thank you so much. Idaho says, thanks, Jenny. I've got good heat, but trudging out to feed water and cows and chickens is not great, though I'm sure I will survive. Jenny says, sweet potato related, given tonight's mission. Maybe veg chili on a jacket sweet potato or something. Bless you, Idaho. Yes, something sweet potato, actually. That could work. Yes, please, Richard. I'm off to a camping show this week. I could send pics of camper vans. That'd be fine. That'd be fine, especially the fridge on camper vans or things like that, because that's what we've been talking about. Sausage rolls sounds yummy. We can do a vote. Thanks, sweet potato or sausage rolls. The vote between the two. It's up to you guys. Nigel says sausage rolls, and Turbo Stream says I like a sausage roll. Perhaps a sweet potato sausage roll. Perhaps we can incorporate the two. We'll give that some thought. Lee says sweet spud. Let's have a look and see what Instagram, anything going on over there. Sweet potato sausage roll. Okay, I think we got the idea. So sweet potato / sausage roll. That's that figured out. We've figured the mission to make and design a thingamabob. Nicholas says, no trudging out in mine is deep mud and rain. Mine ponies, chickens and ducks. First duck heads this week and frog spawn last week. Yeah, got to get, when you got animals, you've got to do these things though, haven't you? Tabby Stream says not allowed to go to Greg's Live. Don't worry, I'm going to do it myself. A sweet potato sausage roll. Bally Ceiling says sausage roll as well. You can't grow pastry, but we could grow wheat. It was something I was looking at doing a while back and never got around to doing. Lovely idea for next week's show. What, the shed or the upcoming products for 2025? Which one are you thinking? I'm thinking the products for 2025, especially if you guys that are also there can do a rolling reporter recording as well. I'll be there. I'm going to record some things. I'm trying to minimize how much stuff I can carry, but yeah, I think it's going to be fun. Anyway, it's just gone 7:30, so I'm going to start wrapping up. I think we decided on everything we're doing. I'm just waiting for Anna Jones says the products. So yeah, we'll do the products for 2025. And we'll try and get some rolling reporters in that as well. Right, guys, I think it is time that we get up and out of here. 7:30. I think we've figured everything out for next week. I'll be back again at 6 p.m. on Sunday. It's always 6 p.m. I know it came up with 6:20 today, but it's always 6 p.m. And we're going to do this all again. We're going to be finding out about products for 2025. And I'm going to be designing and costing these units for the garage and loft. Right, guys, Digra says, Kenty's got a great live stream as always, says Kenty's Garner, thank you. But Digra says, I'm only there for 3 hours or so, busy day in London. You could do a slideshow if you wanted. It's just some of your favorite products or something would be good. Up to you, of course. Anyway, right, it's time to get out of here. We will be back next Sunday at 6 p.m. And I look forward to seeing you all then. We've got podcast out, we've got videos out this week as well. As you can tell, I'm really ramping up my production at the moment because I've got plenty more time. And if I get this job that I want, it's going to be even better. Please do give us a thumbs up, a like, and a follow, and subscribe on your way out. We will be back again next Sunday at 6. So until then, please take care. Oh, hang on.